I hope you rot in hell, Charlie. That's the last thing she ever said to me before slamming the door so hard the frame cracked. And all I did was set down the casserole I made for her goddamn book club. Yeah, I cooked. Tuesdays. Her nights. I'd make something comforting, something warm, something that said, I trust you. Because I did. Foolishly. Completely. For 13 years and 7 months. She used to come home after those nights glowing. Little too much perfume still hanging on her coat. Lipstick smudged just enough to notice. Eyes that didn't quite focus when she said, the girls send their love. You'd think I was insane for picking up on that. But the truth is, I wanted to be wrong. I needed to be wrong. Until the goat cheese broke me. Let me explain. That Tuesday, she left in a rush. Said the club was meeting earlier. Allison's got a Zoom with her editor, she tossed over her shoulder. I didn't even respond. I was too busy grating lemon zest over the goat cheese tart I'd made from her Pinterest board. She'd pinned it last week with a heart emoji. Said it reminded her of our honeymoon in Santa Barbara. She didn't take a single bite when she got back. She stumbled in past midnight, reeking of gin and Marc Jacobs, wobbling on heels I hadn't seen since our anniversary 2 years ago. Too fancy for Kroger, she joked back then. That night, I asked, so, what book did you guys discuss? She blinked, paused, then said, The Dutch House. Wrong. They read that in January. I remembered because she made me read it too so she could compare notes. I even underlined passages, like a damn middle schooler with a crush. That's when the lies stopped being cute. So I started doing what any self-respecting husband with a sinking gut would do. I watched. Not openly. No, I was smarter than that. I got quiet, polite, helpful, even. Started packing her snacks, offering to drive her, just to be sweet. I installed a tiny dash cam in her car, angled just enough to catch the passenger seat. No GPS, no apps, no hacking, just good OL optics and a $29 SD card. And what I saw, let's just say there was no book, no club, no Allison, no girls. There was a guy though, tall, hair like a shampoo commercial, black SUV, same Starbucks napkin always crumpled in his cup holder. He'd park 2 streets down, and she'd get in like clockwork Tuesdays, 7:42 p.m., after waving goodbye to me with that same damn hand that used to wear my grandmother's ring. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I waited. Collected. 6 weeks. 6 Tuesdays. 6 recordings. Each time, her voice got more careless, laughing louder, giggling like she was 20 again. She even called him Professor. He wasn't. I checked. But the part that made my blood turn to ice? The way she talked about me. As if I were a pet. Some loyal Labrador who'd fetch her wine, fix the sink, then trot away so the adults could have fun. You should see his face when I tell him we're reading feminist essays, she snorted on the 3rd recording. Like he's trying so hard to pretend he gets it. I didn't scream. Didn't punch a wall. I just watched. And planned. Quiet fury is more productive anyway. So on the 7th Tuesday, I did something different. I followed her. Not in my car, too obvious. I took Fred's old bike from the garage, tossed a hoodie on, and tailed her from a distance. Half a mile of cold sweat and brake squeaks later, I found it, a little Airbnb tucked behind a church parking lot. Red door. Wind chime. Patio lights like a rom-com set. She kissed him at the threshold like it was routine. And when she laughed, really laughed, I realized something that hollowed me out on the spot. I hadn't heard that sound in 2 years. The next morning, I made muffins. Blueberry. Her favorite. Added a dash of almond extract just how she likes. Arranged them neatly on a tray next to her reusable water bottle and the baby blue Bluetooth speaker she always brought to book club. But this time, the speaker wasn't just playing Norah Jones. This time, it played her. Uncut. Unfiltered. And the moment her friends walked in and heard her say he still thinks I'm on a chapter called Empowerment. But I'm just riding Professor like a rented mule. She didn't just drop the muffins. She started screaming. She screamed like a woman being exorcised. Except the demons weren't coming out. They were exposing themselves. The Bluetooth speaker kept playing, calm and merciless. My voice wasn't in it. Just hers. Just enough reverb and cheap motel acoustics to make every word echo through the living room like a slap. I didn't flinch. I didn't even blink. I just watched. Her friends, book club regulars like Denise, Rhonda, that fake smiling redhead whose name I still don't know, stood frozen with their vegan pastries and Trader Joe's bags, eyes darting between the speaker and her blotchy face. You could feel the shift in the room. You know the kind, when gossip stops being fun and turns into something filthy. No one moved to pause the recording. No one asked if it was a joke. They knew. And for once, so did she. She lunged for the speaker, but I was faster. Picked it up and walked it right into the kitchen, volume still up. Set it on the island like it was the centerpiece of some cursed dinner party. Need help finding your chapter? I asked, tone sweet enough to rot a tooth. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. Nothing coherent, at least. Just this wet gasp. This looked like I'd shot her dog in front of a priest. Denise stepped back. Actually stepped back like infidelity was contagious. Rhonda's mouth hung open like she'd just bitten into glass. The redhead, still don't know her name, clutched her purse like someone was about to rob the place. And then, the words kept coming. He calls it classroom play. Her voice crooned from the speaker. And I told him I wanted extra credit for being bad. Someone let out a noise, half laugh, half choke. Her face cracked then. Not broke. Cracked. Because she wasn't the kind of woman who broke. Not in public. She was the kind who curated her tears. But this was different. This wasn't theater. This was exposure. Her spine stiffened like she thought she could still claw back the power. She turned to me, wide-eyed and venomous. You set me up. I nodded, slowly. 6 Tuesdays. I had time to practice. She stormed forward, index finger shaking in my face like I was a naughty child. You humiliated me. I caught you, I said evenly. You humiliated yourself. The speaker continued. He smells like sawdust and bourbon. Way more man than Charlie. That did it. The redhead grabbed her bag and muttered something about not being a part of this. She scurried out like the fire alarm had gone off. Rhonda followed. Denise lingered. Of course she did. Denise always liked to pretend she was above drama while bathing in it like a hot tub. She gave me a glance. A very pointed glance. Not pity. Not sympathy. Just calculation. Interesting. My wife, ex-wife in spirit, if not yet legally, stood trembling in the ruins of her double life. No more silk-smooth lies. No more you're just tired, baby. No more weaponized affection. Just her, me, a Bluetooth speaker, and the crumbling illusion of fidelity. I turned the speaker off. Not out of mercy. Just strategy. Because this was only phase 1. That night, she locked herself in the guest room. I heard her sobbing. But you know what's funny? I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel relieved. I felt cold. Like the part of me that used to love her had finally snapped off like a dead branch. And now I was just watching. Watching and planning. She didn't come out the next morning. Didn't touch the coffee. Didn't look me in the eye when I passed her in the hallway. And that's when I noticed it. Her wedding ring was off. Just gone. No ceremony. No drawer slam. Just erased. But she hadn't left. Not yet. I knew why. The house wasn't in my name alone. The finances were tangled. Her car was leased under my company. She couldn't afford to vanish without making some moves. And I knew her well enough to know. She'd try to reclaim control in the most dramatic, manipulative way possible. And sure enough, on Friday morning, I came home from the gym to find her sitting on the couch in a silk robe, eyes red, holding 2 mugs of coffee and an old photo album. I stood in the doorway, not moving. Charlie, she began, voice trembling. We lost something, didn't we? I said nothing. I mean, we lost us. Maybe that's why I cut her off. Don't what? Her voice cracked, just a little. Don't try? Don't be honest now. You don't want honesty, I said. You want damage control. You want me to smooth this over, sweep it under some big marital rug so your friends stop whispering and your professor doesn't start ghosting you. She blinked, like I'd punched her. Then she whispered, You're being cruel. No, I said. I'm being efficient. She stared. You sound like a stranger. I smiled. Then you should have treated me better when I still sounded like your husband. That night, she didn't sleep in the guest room. She didn't sleep in the master either. She disappeared. But not from the house. She just wasn't anywhere. Until I checked the garage. The light was on. And the box was open. The box. That was the moment I knew this story was far from over. Because inside that box was something she never touched. Something she used to mock. And now it was gone. It was a dark gray storage bin with a red lid, tucked behind the water heater, buried under 6 years of garage dust and Christmas clutter. We used to call it the Doom Box, not because it was dramatic, though it was, but because it held every document, contract, receipt, and memory I thought I might need if the marriage ever imploded. She hated that box, mocked it, called it my divorce porn. "You're not a CIA agent, Charlie," she'd said once, laughing over a glass of Merlot. "You're a middle-aged accountant with trust issues and a fetish for worst-case scenarios." Guess who's not laughing now? And yet, when I opened the garage that night, she was quietly alone, sitting cross-legged like a teenager, flipping through the contents of that very box with surgical focus. I watched her from the door for a minute before she noticed me. "Looking for something?" I asked, voice low. She startled, then composed herself fast. Too fast. The way liars do when caught mid-theft. "You kept everything," she muttered. "Old tax returns. Copies of the prenup. My W-2s. Yours and mine," I said. "And your little side hustle you swore was just a yoga blog. Remember that?" Her eyes narrowed. "That blog made us money." "You money," I corrected. "It was always your secret little garden, wasn't it?" She stood slowly, brushing off her knees. "I just wanted to make sure nothing in here could be misused." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean against you?" She didn't answer, but her fingers tightened around a small manila folder. That folder, my heart actually stuttered, was labeled Hold Harmless Agreement, Delaney LLC. That wasn't just paperwork. That was ammo. Back when she started that blog, I filed it as a business under my umbrella LLC, Delaney Financial Services. To save her money, I said. To help her feel empowered, I said. To protect her just in case, I said. What she didn't realize was, she signed a clause waiving indemnity, meaning if she used any of those funds in ways that could be classified as fraudulent, I'd be shielded, and she'd be alone on the hook. "Planning to shred something?" I asked, stepping forward. She shook her head. "Too fast. Just cleaning. It's my stuff too." "No," I said calmly, "it's my LLC. Your name's on nothing except the risk." Her face flushed. She looked down at the folder, then at me. "What do you want, Charlie?" There it was. That question. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "Can we talk?" Not even, "Please don't ruin me." Just, "What do you want?" "Right now," I said. "I want you out of my garage." She left, folder in hand, but I followed. And sure enough, when I checked the security system log 20 minutes later, she tried to open the wall safe in the upstairs office. The one behind the framed botanical print she always said was ugly as sin. She thought I didn't notice how she eyed that painting every time we argued. I did. What she didn't know was that the code had changed. Last week. And when I opened the safe the next morning, everything was still there. The backup USBs, the paper trail, even the one item she'd really been after. The necklace. Now, before you get sentimental, this wasn't jewelry. Not just jewelry. It was my mother's locket. Hollow inside. Modified years ago to carry a micro SD card. I'm not paranoid. I'm prepared. Always have been. On that card? Audio backups. Scans of text logs. And one blurry photo that, if you squint, shows my wife in a motel hallway wrapped in a towel while her professor walks past holding 2 glasses of wine. No face. Not yet. But that towel? It has her initials. Embroidered. And that hallway? GPS metadata puts it 3 blocks from where her book club met every Tuesday. She wanted that card destroyed. Because she knew what would happen if it wasn't. The next morning, I got a call. Blocked number. I picked up. A man's voice. Deep. Nervous. "Is this Charlie?" "Depends," I said. "Who's asking?" "I think we need to talk," he said. "About her." And that was the moment everything took a turn. Because the man on the other end? He wasn't the professor. He was someone else entirely. And he had no idea what she'd done to him, too. He called himself Mitch. Said it like it was a confession, like the name itself carried shame. His voice was cracked around the edges, the kind of voice that's been dry swallowed with pills and regrets. He sounded like a man who hadn't slept in a week and hadn't really slept in a year. "I shouldn't be calling," he said. "But I figured if anyone would believe me, it's the guy who married her." There was a silence after that. Long, heavy. I let it sit. Then I said, "You've got 30 seconds, Mitch." He exhaled hard. "She said I wasn't the only one. Said there were others. Said we were all just parts of the plan." That caught me. "What plan?" He hesitated. You really don't know, he said, confused. You're the husband. I thought you were in on it. My mouth dried. Start talking. And so he did. They met on a wellness retreat. Something called the Reset Program in Arizona, one of those overpriced, high-end soul cleanses for burned-out executives and bored wives with money to burn. She went there while I was in Dallas last year for a client audit. Said she needed space. I paid for the plane ticket. Even upgraded her hotel because she said the cheap linens gave her hives. That's where Mitch came in. He was a therapist, not a licensed one. He was in transition after losing his board certification due to a misunderstanding in Florida. She found him refreshing, she said. He was the only one at the retreat who wasn't pretending to be perfect. They hit it off. Fast. According to Mitch, they shared everything. Their dreams, their fears, their past betrayals, their assets. She told him we were technically married but spiritually separated. That I was emotionally withholding and weaponized routine. That she was trapped, financially dependent, emotionally starved. Bullshit, of course. But Mitch bought it. And then as she made him invest $10,000 into her blog-turned-brand. Empower She, a lifestyle site with hand-curated posts, affiliate links, and vague empowerment slogans. No products. No real clients. Just buzzwords and PayPal buttons. The whole thing was a shell. And Mitch wasn't the only investor. She said I'd have partial ownership, he whispered. Said I could be the CFO, help her grow it into something real. She made it sound like I was rescuing her. I nearly laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was so damn familiar. She'd done the same with me. 2 years ago, she cried at the kitchen table about how her life had no meaning. Said she wanted to create something for women like her. I filed the LLC, built the site, paid a designer, bought the first 2,000 followers from a shady Eastern European click farm. I even wrote half the blog posts under fake names just to help her feel legitimate. And now? She was franchising her sob story. Mitch paused. I'm sorry, man. I didn't know you were still with her. I'm not, I said. Not really. She's poison, he muttered. I gave her everything. She promised me a life. You got a necklace too? I asked. That shut him up. How did you? She has a system, I said coldly. You're not the first. You won't be the last. But you might be the first useful one. He didn't like that. What do you want from me? Your paperwork, I said. Any email. Any transfer. Anything that ties her promises to a $sign. Why? Because I'm not trying to get even, Mitch. I let that hang for a beat. I'm trying to win. We ended the call 30 minutes later. He agreed to send everything. Not because he trusted me, but because I think, somewhere deep down, he wanted to see her burn too. Later that night, she came home drunk. Not stumbling, not giggling, just quiet. She walked in the door without looking at me, dropped her bag by the stairs, and sat on the floor in front of the fireplace like some grief-stricken widow. I watched her for a full minute, then said, You have anything to say? She didn't move. It's not what you think. You're going to need to be more specific. Mitch called me, she said. That surprised me. And I told him you're dangerous. That you've been spying on me for months. That you've been recording things illegally. That you're unstable. My blood iced. But I kept my tone flat. Good. Because now he's scared. And scared people make mistakes. She finally looked up at me then. Real eyes. Not the performance ones. What do you want, Charlie? That question again. This time, I walked toward her, leaned down, and said, I want you to watch everything you built turn into smoke. I want your fake brand, your lovers, your secret bank accounts, your pity parties. I want them all to fall apart in slow motion. She flinched. And that's when I saw it. The tremble in her hand. She was holding something behind her leg. A checkbook. My checkbook. One I hadn't seen in a year. And the name on the line? Made my stomach twist. It wasn't Mitch. It wasn't the professor. It was someone else. Someone I trusted. Someone who knew exactly where my money was kept. I snatched the checkbook from her hand before she could protest, flipping through the pages so fast they blurred. Most were blank, until I got to the fifth one. A clean, practiced signature at the bottom. Not hers. Mine. Except I hadn't written it. The check was made out for $12,500, memo line, Empower She, development retainer. Dated 2 weeks ago. Cashed. And the signature? It was forged. I looked up at her. You forged my goddamn name? She didn't even blink. Just whispered, it was just a bridge loan. I wanted to laugh. Bridge to where? The Cayman Islands? But what stopped me cold wasn't the check itself. It was the name and the pay to the order of line. T. Halverson. Not a stranger. Not some fake shell. Todd Halverson was my business partner. My friend of 16 years. My racquetball buddy. The guy who drove me to the ER when I cracked a rib falling off the roof putting up Christmas lights. The same guy who signed as my witness when we bought the house. The same guy who swore up and down my wife was too much woman for him. That he liked him simple. Apparently, not that simple. You gave Todd a check? I said, hearing my own voice rise. She stood, now trying to control the room again, like I hadn't just caught her holding a loaded gun with my fingerprints on it. It's not what you think. He's just helping me transition and power she into a real platform. He has tech guys. Marketing people. I needed him, Matt. You needed his money. You took mine. I was gonna pay you back. With what? A discount code for Matt Chop Powder. She stepped forward, eyes burning. You're not innocent in this, Charlie. You were never present. You always had some spreadsheet open. Some forecast. You didn't even see me. I barked a laugh. I saw plenty. I just stopped believing the performances. And that's when she did the one thing I didn't expect. She smiled. Slow. Twisted. Something in that grin snapped the air in half. Oh, Charlie, she whispered. You think this is me scrambling? I frowned. This was the plan, she said. The whole time. You just finally caught up. I stared at her like I was looking at a stranger. She tilted her head. Let me guess. Mitch called you crying? Said I scammed him? He always cries. I told him not to invest more than 10 grand. He begged me to take 15. You're bragging now? No. I'm giving you a chance. You want to destroy me? Fine. But you'll have to burn everything. Including your precious reputation. Including your job. Because Todd's not just my investor, he's your financial director on 3 clients. If this goes public, you're the one who's compromised. Not me. I stepped back. She was right. Technically, Todd wasn't just a friend. He managed overflow accounts when I got busy. He had access to client portals, wire info, even firm documents. If there were transactions linking me to a fraud scandal, even passively, I'd be questioned. At best. At worst, I'd be indicted. You're playing with fire, I said. I am the fire, she replied. And for the first time since this all started, I saw her for what she really was. Not a scorned wife. Not a misguided soul-chasing empowerment. She was a goddamn con artist in yoga pants. And I'd married her. The next day, I made a call to someone I hadn't spoken to in over 4 years. My sister. We hadn't talked since the fallout at Dad's funeral. Long story. Stupid fight. But she was the best forensic accountant I'd ever met. Used to consult for 3 law firms in Chicago before going full hermit in Vermont. She picked up on the 3rd ring. Jesus, she said. You alive? Barely, I said. I need your help. Quietly. You in trouble? No, I said. But someone's about to be. She paused. Is this about her? Yeah. Good. I hated that bitch. And just like that, we were back. By the end of that call, she agreed to take a look at the financials. I promised her full access, a secure drive, and a one-way ticket here if she needed to dig deeper. I hung up and turned toward the hallway and nearly collided with her. My wife. Standing there. Holding my laptop. Unlocked. How long have you been listening? I asked. She smirked. Long enough to know you're scared. I'm prepared, I said. She held up the laptop. Then I guess you won't mind if I back up your hard drive for safety. I froze. She knew my passwords. She'd watched me for years. She had access to everything, and if she wanted to twist it, she could. I stepped toward her. And that's when she dropped the laptop on the floor. Hard. The screen spiderwebbed instantly. She didn't flinch. Just said, "Game on, Charlie," and walked away. But what she didn't know, the real hard drive wasn't in that laptop. And it wasn't in the safe either. It was hidden in something she'd touched every single week for the last 6 months. Something she thought was hers. Something she'd never suspect. And if she did, she'd scream a hell of a lot louder than she did when the speaker started playing. She thought it was a simple diffuser. Sleek. Matte black. Sat on the entryway table right by the keys. She bought it during her reclaiming my aura phase, one of those overpriced gadgets that promised serenity and probably gave off more ozone than actual lavender. She loved it. refilled it religiously with eucalyptus oil every Monday, said it cleared the energy before her book club met. She didn't know I gutted it 6 months ago. Didn't know the mist wasn't just mist. Inside was a Wi-Fi-enabled solid-state micro-recorder with an encrypted sync to an external cloud. Motion-activated. Full audio. Backed by a rotating VPN node that'd make a Russian hacker sweat. Why? Because 6 months ago, she started whispering during phone calls. You don't need to be a genius to know when someone's trying to keep secrets. I just made sure the house heard them anyway. So when she smashed the laptop, she thought she'd won. Thought she'd just deleted my leverage. But what she didn't know was the real drive, the one I'd mailed to Vermont with its twin already uploading to my sister's secure node, had everything. Not just the speaker audio. Not just the check images. But hours of recorded conversations. And some of those? They didn't just feature her. They featured Todd. Yeah, Todd, my bro, sitting on the same damn couch I bought, drinking my scotch, murmuring into his phone about front-loading invoices and writing off the loss before Q3. That bastard wasn't just helping her build a fake brand. He was laundering money. Through my clients. And here's the cherry. On one recording, she laughs about it. You're sure this can't come back on Charlie? And Todd, his voice smooth as butter, goes, please. He doesn't even look at the balance sheets. He trusts me more than he trusts his own gut. I hit pause when I heard that. Because it was true. I trusted Todd with everything. Signed off on his quarterly reports without a second glance. Hell, I let him handle the Martinson account solo when I was recovering from knee surgery. And that account? $1 million fund. Old money. Litigious money. If even a whiff of this reached them, I wouldn't just lose business. I'd lose everything. So no, this wasn't about revenge anymore. This was containment. I spent the next 3 days locking things down. My sister worked double time, combing through the logs, the transfers, the LLC filings my wife had slipped into existence under dummy names. She found 8 shell entities, all nested under EmpowerShe's branding, all funneling through Todd's consultancy backend. Guess what else she found? A wire transfer to an account in the Caymans. Labeled, Yes Retreat Planning. The amount? $48,900. And it cleared from one of my client's escrow accounts. Not hers. Mine. That was the day I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront Todd. I wasn't going to confront her. I was going to invite them. Together. To dinner. One last supper before the whole thing came down. I called Todd first. Played it calm. Hey man, haven't seen you in a bit. Got a bottle of Pappy I've been saving. Thought we could catch up. Talk next steps on Q3. He hesitated. Just a flicker. Then, yeah man. Of course. Just like old times. I texted my wife from the kitchen. Let's have dinner tomorrow. Just us. One last chance to talk like adults. She replied instantly. Only if you promise not to play another recording. No recordings, I wrote. Promise. She didn't realize the house was the recorder. They both showed up. Todd in his stupid blazer with the elbow patches. My wife in that emerald dress she wore to my cousin's wedding, the one where she'd slipped me a note that said, let's sneak away and pretend we're strangers. We ate steaks. I let them talk. Watched how he poured her wine without asking. Watched how her hand lingered on his wrist a second too long. It was a performance. For me. But I wasn't the audience anymore. I was the director. When dessert came out, I set down a black envelope on the table. Thick cardstock. Wax seal. They froze. What's this? Todd asked. A gift, I said. To thank you both. For your honesty. My wife narrowed her eyes. Todd opened it first. Inside, 8 notarized affidavits. One from each LLC my sister traced. With documentation tying the accounts back to his financial firm and her. You son of a... Careful, I said, pouring myself another glass of wine. You're both about to need very careful language. Are you threatening us? She spat. No, I smiled. I'm giving you a deal. And then I leaned in. If I file this, you both go down. Wire fraud. Corporate malfeasance. Civil suits. Maybe even prison. They said nothing. Just stared at me like they'd miscalculated the terrain. I stood. Here's the deal. You each transfer everything back. I want full control of the EmpowerShe domains, shell entities, bank accounts, everything. You walk away with nothing but your names, and maybe, I don't blowtorch your reputations in front of every legal and financial body from here to DC. They still didn't speak. until she said, "And if we say no?" I turned, paused, then said, "Flat as glass. Then I file tonight. And by morning, you'll both be radioactive." I left the room. Let the silence sit. The next morning, the first transfer hit my account at 6:03 a.m. But that wasn't the win. The win came at 7:41 a.m. when I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. "We need to talk." I think she did it to me too. M. Not Mitch. Someone new. Which meant she hadn't stopped. Even after all this, she'd found another Mark. His name was Marcus. That's all the text said. Just M. I didn't recognize the number, but I had a sinking feeling deep in my gut, the kind that comes from seeing the same storm cloud over a new town. I called. He picked up fast. Voice sharp, clear, young, late 30s, maybe early 40s. Sounded like money, but new money. Probably the kind that had just made its first million and hadn't figured out how fast it could disappear. "She used my name," he said immediately. No hello, no hesitation. "She used my name on a vendor account, and now I've got $28,000 in fraudulent tech invoices floating under my LLC." I walked outside. Needed air. The sun was still rising over the fence. The same fence I spent 3 weekends staining while she complained it clashed with the mulch. "Marcus," I said, slow down. "Who are you? How do you know her?" He didn't. "Not really. Just like the others. She came to one of our panels," he said. "I was speaking on startup culture and female founders. She approached me after the talk, said she was building an app for mental wellness for women, claimed she had seed money, but needed help navigating pitch decks. Said she'd been burned before, wanted someone she could trust." I nearly gagged at the irony. "She name-dropped you," Marcus said. "Said her husband, ex-husband, actually, was a numbers guy. Said you'd helped her build the foundation, but it got toxic." There it was again. That damn narrative. That I was the villain. Cold, dismissive, controlling. The man who stood in the way of a woman's dreams. She used the same script, just changed the stage. "She gave me equity," Marcus continued, or said she did. "Sent over some documents. Looked real enough. Then 2 weeks later, I start getting notices from vendors. Equipment I never ordered. Services I never signed for. I already knew. It wasn't Marcus's name on those orders. It was mine. My shell companies. The ones she had access to. She was still moving money under my footprint. Even after the supposed transfer. Even after the big dinner showdown. She'd left just enough open to keep bleeding the system. That emerald-dressed banshee played humble for a night, then picked up the mask and got right back to work. "Marcus," I said slowly, "listen carefully. This is bigger than you think. I need everything she gave you. Emails, files, the docs she sent, especially if she forged my signature on any of them." "I already sent them to a lawyer," he said. "Is it your lawyer?" I asked. "Yeah." "Good. Fire him." Silence. "What?" "Trust me. Fire him. Today. And use someone from outside the tech world. She's manipulative, but she's not stupid. She probably scoped your network the second she met you." He exhaled. "Jesus. She's done this before," I said. "I've tracked at least 4 men. You're number 5. Or 6. There was a long pause. Then a whisper. Was any of it real? I knew what he was asking. Not about the money. About the affection. The calls. The late-night strategy sessions. The way she probably looked at him like he was the only sane man in a world of mediocrity. She knew how to build an illusion. "No," I said. "None of it." I hung up. Went inside. And I swear, for just a moment, I forgot what the hell I was doing standing in my own kitchen. The walls didn't feel like mine anymore. Every drawer I opened had something that reminded me of her. Some twisted echo of a life I thought we were building. Her initials still carved into the coffee mug she stole from the Charleston trip. The empty vase where she used to arrange stress-cleansing herbs. I wanted to burn it all, but I wasn't finished. Not yet. That day, I opened the last digital folder on the backup drive I'd sent to my sister. One I hadn't dared look at until now. It was labeled Sparrow. Only one person called her that. Her mother. And inside that folder, 26 voice memos. Some were short, just a few seconds. Others were full-blown conversations. Most were recorded without my wife knowing. Apparently, her mother hated me. Thought I was too square. But she hated her own daughter more. She's never had a soul, One memo said, just mirrors. She reflects whatever she thinks you want. You give her love, she gives you a version of it. Give her money, she makes you feel like you invested in her. But when she's done with you, poof, you don't exist anymore. I sat with that for a long time, because that was the moment I realized. I didn't want her arrested. I didn't want her in court, dragging this out with legalese and crocodile tears. I wanted her erased. And to do that, I needed someone who could make a person disappear from every account, contract, and registry that ever tied her to me. So I called a guy I hadn't spoken to since before my wedding. Dean Kravitz. Off the books, IT mercenary. Works out of Vegas now. Last time we talked, he was building private exit strategies for a crypto CEO who faked his own death in Bali. Dean picked up with a smirk in his voice. Charlie Delaney. Heard you got married. Still alive. Barely, I said. You still good at burning trails? I'm better. What's the target? I sent him everything. Bank info. Shell company filings. Her login patterns. Metadata. The Empower She network. Even the hidden social accounts she didn't think I knew about. He whistled. She's a real cockroach, huh? No, I said. She's a virus. And I want her quarantined. He laughed. Quarantined I can do. But full deletion? That'll take time. How much? 2 weeks. Max. I thought about Marcus. About Mitch. About the next poor bastard currently being reeled in. Make it 1. He paused. Then said, it'll cost. I don't care. Because when I was done, she wouldn't just be broke. She wouldn't even exist. The next morning, I changed the locks. Not just the front door. Everything. The gate code. The garage pin. The internal Wi-Fi mesh. Even the damn Nest thermostat password. She'd always said she liked the house, just warm enough to be comfortable. I set it to 62 and locked her out of every setting. Petty? Maybe. But necessary. Because I knew what was coming. I knew her patterns, how she always lashed out after losing ground. The niceties were over. No more soft manipulation. No more Charlie, we were good once. She was done pretending to salvage anything. Now she'd come for blood. It started that afternoon. My phone rang. A blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice, slick with faux concern. Charlie, I think you're spiraling. You're not acting rationally. I've spoken to someone, just a therapist, nothing formal yet, but I think you should too. This behavior, it's not normal. You're scaring people. Scaring people. Translation. I'm laying groundwork in case you expose me. 10 minutes later, my neighbor across the street, Brian, texts me. Hey man, everything cool? Your wife asked if you've been okay lately. Sounded worried. Said you were stressed. Strike 1. Then came the package. Delivered by courier, no return address. Just a manila envelope with my name written in her handwriting. I opened it in the kitchen, standing over the counter like I was disarming a bomb. Inside? Photos. Printed. Glossy. High resolution. One of me with my assistant, April, from last Christmas. Hugging too long. Me leaning close to show her something on my phone. Another. Us leaving the office at 7:45 p.m. on a late audit night. I remember that night, I gave April a lift because her car had been towed. She was 23. Blonde. Smart. I never touched her. But these photos? Cropped. Tilted. Just ambiguous enough. And right on top of the stack? A note. HR would love these. That's when I understood. She wasn't trying to fight fair. She was building a defense. Charlie's obsessed. Jealous. Spiraling into paranoia. Look, he thought I was cheating, but he was the one with something to hide. A full-blown preemptive smear campaign. I could already see the headline she'd dream up. Wife of financial consultant speaks out about coercive control, surveillance abuse, and emotional manipulation. Hell, she'd probably land a TED Talk. But while she played PR chess, I was playing something else entirely. Because Dean had already begun. He sent me a message that night. First layer scrubbed. 8 sites pulled. Pinterest, Reddit, FB Alt, Gmail aliases gone. I'm inside Empower She backend. Found something weird. Give me a few hours. That something weird arrived at 2:37 a.m. A zip file. Encrypted. Labeled donorwall.v2. I cracked it open and stared. Rows and rows of names. Men. Each with an ID. A flag donation amount. And next to it? Tags like guilt incentive, monthly vulnerable, possible relocation target. There were notes. Notes she'd written. Zach G. Plays guitar. Divorced twice. Still idealizes women. Open to mentoring, likes younger women. Easily flattered. Chris F. Lonely. Borderline alcoholic. Promises money if he feels seen. Make him feel seen. Mitch prone to depression. Use soft language. Cries easily. Avoid confrontation. I stopped breathing. This wasn't seduction. This was profiling. She built a damn database of emotional leverage points. A CRM for heartbreak and manipulation. Tags, updates, timestamps. This wasn't some wounded woman who made a few bad choices. This was industrialized con artistry. I called Dean. What am I looking at? Behavioral target model, he said. Something she built with the guy you had dinner with, Todd. The code was registered under an LLC he owned, cross-linked to a defunct Kickstarter backend. It's not just donor notes, it's an algorithm. Recommends messaging styles, call times, even background music. I almost vomited. You sure it's hers? Pulled voice memos. She dictated half of it. Once it spun into a coaching platform for high-value women. Her words. I didn't respond. Couldn't. She was gonna go global with it, Dean added. Auto-generate outreach, fake live coaching calls, AI sentiment testing, like Tinder met a con artist's wet dream. She even bought the domain, femspire.io. That's when I snapped. Because this wasn't just about me. It wasn't about Todd, or Mitch, or Marcus. She was about to mass-produce the scam. I texted my sister. Pull the trigger. She replied, you sure? Do it. Every doc. Every contact. Burn the whole fucking orchard. And just like that, the dominoes fell. 3 clients called Todd by noon. What's this about your license being under review? The Martinson family froze all accounts. Our joint checking account got flagged for suspicious outbound wires. Her LLCs were reported to the IRS under anonymous tip. And her phone? Started ringing. Lawyers. Vendors. One of her donors, Zach G. Found her home address and showed up drunk on her lawn screaming about being used. She called me at 3:19 p.m. No greeting. Just static silence. Then, you did this. I didn't answer. Charlie, you'll regret this. I'll ruin you. Still, I stayed silent. Because at that exact moment, Dean sent one last file. A blurry video. From a ring came across the street from a motel 2 months ago. In the footage? Her. With someone I hadn't seen before. Wearing my hoodie. Carrying a duffel bag. Getting into her car, my car, still titled to me. The timestamp? The night after our anniversary. That's when I realized. She hadn't just cheated. She staged a fake break-in at our office to cover a financial wipeout. And the guy on camera? Wasn't a lover. He was the tech consultant who set up EmpowerShe's backend. The real architect. The one who'd vanish if anything went sideways. Unless someone found him before she did. I tracked him down in less than 24 hours. Name, Evan Lagrange. Alias, Ev2 on the tech contractor forums. Location, a co-working space in Santa Fe that boasted spiritual Wi-Fi and free kombucha on tap. Of course it did. He hadn't expected me. That much was clear the second I walked in and saw him hunched over a laptop, tapping nervously at a code window, eyes flicking every few seconds like he knew something was coming. He was mid-30s, beard too manicured for a man claiming to live off-grid, wearing a shirt that said, "Data is my love language." I almost laughed. I dropped a manila envelope onto the desk next to his latte. He froze. Didn't look up. Then, without turning, he asked, "How did you find me?" "Your resume's still cached on 2 job boards," I said. "You used the same photo you put on her site." He finally looked up. Eyes bloodshot. Uneven pupils. Something between scared and guilty. "She said you'd ruin me." "She said a lot of things," I replied, mostly to people she was actively draining. He pushed his chair back and sighed. "I didn't know it would go this far. I just built what she asked for. You engineered a behavioral manipulation engine." "I coded it," he said flatly. "She provided the data. The strategy. I figured it was for coaching, not scamming." He didn't answer. I opened the envelope. Spread out printed copies of wire records, crypto transfers, offshore conversions. "Do these look like coaching expenses to you?" He rubbed his eyes. "Look, man. She promised me equity. Said once Femspire launched, I'd be CTO. Said we were building something revolutionary." "You were," I said. A revolutionary pyramid scheme. His voice lowered. She threatened me. Said if I backed out, she'd say I hacked her. Said she'd leak screenshots of us sleeping together. We didn't, by the way. Doesn't matter, I said. You built a system that profiled vulnerable men and turned their pain into predictable revenue streams. That puts you in it, Evan. You're not a bystander. You're an accessory. He put his head in his hands. I have a daughter, he muttered. That almost got me. Almost. You want to protect her? I said. Then help me finish this. I need everything. Server logins. Admin keys. Access to the behavioral tags. I want every donor name, every IP address, every shell entity linked to the core. He looked at me for a long time, then said, if I help you, do I go down? If you don't, we both do, I said. And so does every other person she's got her claws in. 3 hours later, I had everything. The full architecture, the user tree, metadata from every coaching session, cached chats, payment flows, her exact revenue numbers split by psychological archetype. She'd made $386,000 in 18 months. Untaxed. Untraceable. Until now. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was one line buried in the back-end logs. A field labeled, trigger ID, CJ_delay_final. A scheduled mass release. Images. Messages. Fabricated HR complaints. Dossiers of abuse from at least 4 former partners, including me. A full blackmail nuke. I stared at the line of code. Execution date, tomorrow, 10 a.m. And it wasn't stored locally. It was sitting on a decentralized cloud chain keyed to her voice print. Meaning, if she gave the command, the system would dump everything onto Reddit, into Dropbox folders, auto-email to journalists, even a timed TikTok clip with fake texts layered over our old wedding photos. All queued up. She hadn't just planned revenge. She'd planned obliteration. I left Santa Fe in a haze. Drove 12 hours straight. Didn't sleep. Didn't eat. Just chewed through gas stations in fury. She was quiet. Too quiet. No calls. No texts. Not even a gloat. That told me one thing. She knew I was close. She was waiting for the button. I beat her to it. I arrived at 8:04 a.m., walked into the courthouse with a suit I hadn't worn since the funeral, and handed everything to the DA's office. They'd already had a whisper file open on her from a previous investor complaint that couldn't be verified. My stack blew it wide. Digital fraud. Wire fraud. Forgery. Conspiracy to commit identity theft. And if she tried to pull the trigger? Intentional digital defamation. They moved fast. At 9:12 a.m., a cease and desist letter hit her inbox. At 9:27, a federal freeze was placed on her crypto wallet. And at 9:43, 2 federal agents knocked on her yoga studio's door mid-session. She didn't scream. Not yet. But as they pulled her outside, barefoot, hand on her shoulder, her eyes scanned the parking lot. She knew I was there. I didn't smile. Didn't wave. I just nodded once. Like a man saying goodbye to a ghost. But that wasn't the end. Not yet. Because there was still one person I hadn't heard from. Todd. Her little financial shadow. The man who poured her wine while feeding me poisoned spreadsheets. He'd vanished. But not forever. Because that night, I got an alert. A new transaction. Todd had just wired $60,000 from a dormant shell account to a new legal defense fund. For her. And that's when I realized. He hadn't been conned. He was still in on it. It all led back to Todd. The loyal friend. The gym buddy. The guy who toasted my promotion with cigars and hugged my mother at our wedding like he was family. And now? He was bankrolling her legal defense behind a proxy shell in Wyoming, thinking I wouldn't notice a recycled EIN he'd used once for a vacation rental LLC. Sloppy, Todd. Real sloppy. But not unexpected. Because rats don't jump ship when they built it. They just move into the next hole and wait for the fire to pass. What Todd didn't know was that I had baited him 3 days ago. I'd sent a fake cease and desist to a shared client. Pretended it was from an anonymous whistleblower. Accused me of misconduct. Waited to see who'd run their mouth. Sure enough, the next morning, I got a forwarded email. From Todd. To her. He's getting paranoid. We might need to pivot the strategy. If you go full victim, I'll back it. But only if we can kill the audit on Delaney Financial. Otherwise, we both go down. I didn't need a lawyer to translate that. He wasn't just helping her. He was still profiting. Every forged invoice, every client they skimmed, every donation made to that absurd feminine leadership scam, Todd got his cut. She played the front. He played the back end. And together, they built a system. I wasn't angry anymore. I was ready. I called up an old client of mine. No, not a client. A shark. Name, Marlene Braddock. Estate litigator. Civil suit assassin. She'd once sued a private school so hard their founder moved to Belize. I helped her win a messy inheritance dispute a few years back. Found a $70,000 discrepancy in their ledgers that won her the case. She owed me one. And Marlene? She collects. I gave her everything. The shell companies, the fraud trail, the conflict of interest with Todd acting as financial fiduciary while secretly siphoning funds to his co-conspirator. By Friday, Marlene had filed a civil racketeering suit. Not just against my wife. Against both of them. RICO. Civil RICO. The kind that freezes assets and drags every co-defendant into a spotlight they can't squirm out of. The kind that lets you seize property before the verdict if you show enough preliminary evidence. By Sunday, Todd's accounts were flagged. His condo listed under a management trust had a lien slapped on it. His Tesla disappeared from his work parking lot, repossessed. His financial license? Suspended pending investigation. And the best part? He didn't even know I'd done it. Not until I showed up to his office on Monday morning with two plainclothes investigators. He opened the door, bags under his eyes, holding a Red Bull like a toddler clutches a teddy bear. "Charlie," he said, trying to smile. "I was going to call you." Too late. I handed him the suit notice personally. "You should have stuck to racquetball." He glanced over the documents. His hands shook. "You're not going to win this," he said weakly. I leaned in. "This isn't about winning, Todd. It's about ending the game before you cheat again." My wife pled the fifth. Her lawyer tried to negotiate down the digital fraud to reckless mismanagement. Didn't fly. Dean handed over the back-end code. The donor logs. The voice prints. The payment tunnels. Evan gave a sworn deposition and, in exchange, walked with a deferred sentence and a lifetime ban from financial tech work. The EmpowerShe network? Scrubbed from the web. The Femspire domain? Sold in a liquidation auction for $19 to someone who now uses it to blog about sourdough. And me? I disappeared for 6 months. Took a sabbatical. Bought a quiet place in Maine with a wraparound porch and no Wi-Fi in the bedroom. I didn't need to watch the aftermath. I already won. But sometimes, late at night, I play the final file Dean sent me. Just for perspective. It's her. A voicemail she tried to send Todd the day after the RICO filing hit. "They'll never believe him. I can still fix this. You just have to say you were manipulated too. You just have to make me the victim one last time." The message cuts off mid-sentence. Because the system had already shut her out. No platform. No followers. No victim badge to pin to her blouse. Just silence. People say revenge doesn't change anything. They're wrong. It changes everything. It doesn't heal. It doesn't cleanse. But it settles the score. And sometimes, that's enough.